Hey sports fans, Christian Pedersen, Coach Tom Atwell here at the, is it Cogan or Kogan?
Kogan.
The Kogan pool, always wondered that one. Talking another thing of water polo. Coach is a little bit on the disabled list right now with some big games last week claiming his voice, but he said powered through it. So Coach, let's get straight into it. Cathedral Catholic, a couple of big results last week. They seem to just be the epicenter of close games this season.
Yeah, and in that Western League, they managed to beat Bishops by 1. Then they beat us yesterday by 1. But then Coronado outlasted them by 1.
And they've also lost to Bishops.
And they've also lost to Bishops by 1. So basically everyone across the board, the top four teams in Western League have all been 1 goal apart pretty much for every single game so far this season.
So is this a sign that things are continuing down this path of just never before seen parity, and that we're cruising towards just a bloodbath of an open division? Or is Vista sitting on the outside looking pretty, thinking, oh, these guys are going to shoot each other in the foot, and we're going to come in and stomp?
Yeah, it's a bit of an unknown. It'll be interesting to see, because Vista really hasn't matched up with any of our Western League teams yet. Carlsbad lost to Coronado by 1. And they're in the mix as well. But Vista's kind of the unknown. It'll be interesting to see what happens when Vista plays Carlsbad in their league play. But I think Vista sits on that. We wonder how are they going to match up, because I think they're one of the top 2 or 3 teams.
So that Vista Carlsbad game to me seems to be a pretty big litmus test of when that one rolls around. If there's a blowout in one way or another, you kind of got to go either Vista or Carlsbad. Oh my, that's actually going to be the team to beat.
Right, and that's all the other teams will be working to avoid in the early rounds of CIF. So
yeah, more than ever, teams are going to be jockeying for, I got to get that 3 spot, not that 2 spot. I got to get that 1, not that
Right.
It's going to be pretty dicey. So it seems to me though that in general though this might be a good way to get ready for the first time ever having a postseason beyond the CIF San Diego section, because now it's not just about putting it on cruise control, getting to that open division, and then the games start.
Right.
It's this year, you got to win from wire to wire.
Yeah, on any given day, and with there's other teams that are in the mix, like the Powways and the Grossmonts, that I think when they play their best can beat anybody else in the county. So yeah, there's going to be no easy games. The top 8 are literally going to be the top 8 and 1 goal apart, and I think it could go absolutely any way. 8 could might see themselves in the championship game.
So then two things kind of going off of that. One, are you paying any more or less attention to when San Clemente, when Trabuco Hills, when Huntington Park comes down here and takes on a San Diego team? Are you starting to game plan past the San Diego section, or is it still just, okay, that's a good test, but let's focus on how Carlsbad does against Coronado. Let's focus on how Cathedral does against Bishops.
Yeah, it's interesting because for the first time you're kind of looking to see some of your common opponents down in San Diego, how they've matched up against some of those LA teams and Orange County teams. And you see Newport blew out Coronado, by 10 goals, and so you wonder, geez, was that just an early season, whoops by Coronado, or is Newport really that much better than the San Diego teams? So I think that we're starting to watch a little bit and see how do we stack up, but then again we don't know until we finish out this open. The open division is going to be so up.
You've got to wait for the dust to settle on that.
We won't know who you might be matching up against in the state playoffs.
So is anybody in the open division right now kind of smacking that panic button, going, man, we got to close out these last 10 games really hard, or we're in a bad situation?
I think everybody feels that way. I honestly do. I think
it's sitting there going,
we play Bishops tomorrow, and in our mind it's kind of a must-win if we want to keep ourselves in the relevant top 5 mix. We play Carlsbad and Vista in the last week of the season, and I think those are must-win games if we want to put ourselves in a great spot, a seed. But then I also think at some point, you're hoping to make the top 8, but whether you're 2 or 7, every game is going to be very difficult. So there's no easy road to the Final 4, the Final 2 of the Open Division.
I'm glad you bring up that game happening tomorrow against Bishops. That'll be here. Maybe a little bit of extra drama considering the last one went to triple overtime. Kind of just want to highlight one other big game we got going on in the county this week. It'll be happening probably about an hour after we premiere this podcast, so unfortunately we won't be able to zip over to it, but San Diego is taking on Helix. And this is kind of interesting because this is a rematch of last year's finals for two teams that, okay, we don't describe them as traditional water polo powerhouses, but they are inching their way into that conversation. San Diego is now a 17-win team this season after making a finals appearance. Helix sealed the deal last year with their first one in school history on the boys' side, and they're having another great year. So it's really interesting. This, of course, Coronado, La Jolla, Bishops, those teams are always going to be talked about. But we finally have some actual plot line. It's not just, one team's having a good year, congratulations for them, their senior is going to graduate and they'll fall back into obscurity. But we actually have some schools now at the D1, D2 levels who are having some sustained success.
And you've seen them move up from D2 and doing well at in the D2 playoffs to moving into D1 and being competitive with the other D1 teams. And I think that D1 is going to be a lot like the Open Division in that it could be pretty wide open.
Rancho Bernardo's having a season where they take some big losses, but they bounce back with some huge wins. University City might have the toughest luck of anybody because they have to play La Jolla, Cathedral, Bishops, and Coronado. They have to take Western League in the teeth. But then they turn around and they go, we're strengthened up now.
And they're going to be seasoned vets by the time this season ends. That UC group is going to be I would hate to face them, in that D1 challenge.
So we've got some interesting plot lines started developing. Be on the lookout for the results of that San Diego Helix game that I'm talking about, because that could be an interesting. I think the winner of that game becomes a de facto team to watch for making some moves in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Other than that, go check out the Bishops La Jolla game. I will be right here poolside to get all the highlights of that one. And Coach, we will let you go get a nice Halls lozenge and
trying to rest that voice.
Are you going to be able to avoid yelling right now for practice?
I'm going to give it a shot.
He's going to see if he can exhibit some self-control. If not, we'll see him at the game tomorrow, and him and Coach Peabody see who can blow out the voice first.
Exactly.
Coach, thank you very much as always, and we'll see you next week, sports fans.